There have been reports that Israel has been treating wounded Syrian rebel fighters in its hospitals on the border, including fighters from Nusra Front, which is, of course, the al-Qaeda proxy in Syria. Do those reports worry you that Israel's helping wounded al-Qaeda-aligned fighters?
As I said before, in a different context, it's always useful also to deal with your enemies in a humane way. And I think that when you have people who are wounded and you can deal with them in a humane way, the considerations as to whether to take them in are not simply whether it's politically useful or whether it's politically
So it's purely humanitarian, you say? So there's no tactical or political strategic...
I didn't say there's no tactical. I said the main consideration, the immediate consideration is humane.
But the tactical issues involved, I mean, you know better than me the phrase blowback. You don't think there's going to be blowback against Israel if you get into bed with a group like Nusra Front?
No, I don't think so. I don't think there's going to be blowback.
Why?
Because I think that, unfortunately, the rules of the game in Syria are such that you can do anything that is not possible to be done anywhere else.
Yeah, I think people said that in Afghanistan too. Would you also treat Hezbollah fighters?
No, I would not treat...
Have you not just contradicted what you told me 60 seconds ago about humanely treating your enemies?
No. I think as far as Hezbollah fighters are concerned, with them we have a different account.
So let me be clear, you're happy to treat al-Qaeda fighters, but not Hezbollah fighters?
We have a different account with Hezbollah, a totally different account, because Hezbollah has carried out the type of actions against us which preclude us from going into what the Al-Qaeda has done. Al-Qaeda, to the best of my recollection, has up to now not attacked Israel.
But it's attacked your number one ally and protector and sponsor, the United States of America. There is a quote-unquote war on terror being going on for 15 years.
First of all, when it comes to fighting Al-Qaeda in intelligence and in other areas, yes, we are together with the United States on all these things.
Okay.
But
so
Israel was not specifically targeted by Al-Qaeda, and therefore it's a different kind of account than we have with Hezbollah.
In 1937, the Haganah, which was the underground militia of the labor Zionists, who were the dominant element in the World Zionist Organization, sent a guy by the name of Feivel Polkus to Berlin to negotiate over the Haravara with the Nazis. And and as it happened, the Nazi who was assigned to negotiate with him was Adolf Eichmann, okay, who
later transports millions of Jews to their death.
Yeah, of course. I mean, he is Mr. Holocaust, so to speak. Okay, but at any rate, what happened was that Polkus invited Eichmann to Palestine to visit the Zionist kibbutzes, etc., etc. So he gets to Palestine. He's there for a day when the British realize, who is this guy, you know? And they kick him out, okay? So he and Polkus go to Cairo. And again, they start negotiating. Now, what Polkus told him was, look, if you make the Haravara transfer agreement even more favorable to us, I'll spy for you. I'll try to locate oil in the Middle East for you. Now, we know this because Eichmann, being a good German bureaucrat, he wrote it up. And after World War II, the Americans, when they captured Germany, found the documents. Eichmann worked for a guy, the SS had a specific, quote, Jewish office. In other words, an office that specialized in messing over the Jews, okay? And the guy in charge of it was a guy named Baron Itzelde von Mildenstein, all right? So in 1933, the Zionists invited von Mildenstein to Palestine, and he was there as their guest for about 6 months, and then he went back to Germany and wrote up his visit in Der Angriff, which was the SS, the leading SS propaganda journal, and they actually made a medal about the size of a silver dollar with a swastika on one side and a Star of David on the other, as a commemoration of von Mildenstein's visit to Palestine. Now, Eichmann, as I say, he went to Palestine in 1937. He started as von Mildenstein's disciple. And von Mildenstein had Eichmann learn Hebrew. Okay? Now, whenever I tell that to Jews, most of them burst out laughing, because the one thing about Judaism that is least popular among Jews is having to learn Hebrew. You understand? So the idea of Eichmann, Adolf Eichmann, studying Hebrew sounds like a joke, except that it was real. What happened was that a wing of the Zionist revisionist movement, when World War II broke out, they broke with Jabotinsky. They called themselves, they were called by everybody, the Stern Gang, after their leader, Abraham Stern. And they sent a message.
Okay, I'm going to get into that in the next question. Let me give a question here. All right, so here we are. World War II is starting. Doesn't sound like these guys have learned their lesson. So where do some of them go even further with this fascism?
What happened was that this guy, Abraham Stern, set up his own organization, a split. That's common in all political groups. And they sent a message, a document by messenger to a Nazi diplomat in Beirut, which you have to understand. Your viewers have to understand. By that point in 1940, the Germans had conquered France, so France was run by a pro-Nazi regime called the Vichy French, okay? And they controlled Lebanon and Syria. So the Nazis had a diplomat in Beirut, okay? So the Stern Gang, which was the British name for them, the Stern Gang sent a messenger with this document to the Nazis, offering to go to war on Hitler's side. They explained.
Wait, say that again?
Okay. The Stern Gang sent a message to, a document, hand-delivered the document to a German diplomat in Beirut, offering to go to war on Adolf Hitler's side. In other words,
what year is it?
The first time they did it was in they wrote it in 1940. It was actually delivered in, let's say, January 1941, okay? Then, when they didn't get a response from the Nazis, they said, thank you very much, but they, put it in their pocket, so to speak. They sent another messenger at the end of 1941. So it was delivered twice, okay? After World War II, the document was found by the British in Turkey, in the German embassy in Turkey. In other words, the diplomat who they had given it to in Beirut, he toured the Middle East, and when he got to Turkey, he deposited the document in the German embassy in Turkey.
So let me emphasize this. We're in World War II, in the middle of the actual Holocaust, and this group of Zionists is proposing to fight on the side of Adolf Hitler.
Absolutely.
I want to talk now about Hitler's buddy, Mussolini.
Okay.
What kind of relations did some Zionists have with him?
Right. Jabotinsky, the founder of Zionist revisionism, he wanted the Zionists to demand that the British revise their policy, and the World Zionist Organization wouldn't do it. So he decided to go looking for another mandatory to take over from Britain in Palestine, all right? Well, who was the only one who could even possibly do that was Mussolini in Italy. He needed somebody to replace the British who were getting soft on the Arabs. All right? So he became more and more pro-Italian. And finally, in 1935, Mussolini invited Jabotinsky's youth group called Betar and had cadets from Betar trained at Mussolini's Naval Academy. Okay, that's the equivalent of Annapolis in the United States, all right? When they opened up their squadron at his academy, he came, as a sign of, his friendship, etc., and they wrote it up, and their report on their squadron at Civitavecchia is in the book.
And who is the political heirs in modern Israel to Jabotinsky's people?
Literally, Bibi Binyamin, that's the Hebrew for Benjamin, Bibi Netanyahu. His father, Netanyahu's father, was Vladimir Jabotinsky's secretary. They were so pro-fascist that at least 35 of them actually joined the Mussolini's university student group. In other words, they weren't just pro-fascist, they joined the Italian Fascist Party. That's how fascist they were. Now,
and all the while, Mussolini is ravaging Ethiopia. And so
now, while the war was going on in Ethiopia, the Zionist revisionist movement, that's Netanyahu's father's movement, I'm emphasizing this now, they marched in parades, they collected tin cans to be used, when I say tin, I mean, metal cans to be used during the war. This sounds strange to us, but the same thing went on in America during World War II. I mean, I remember collecting cans as a kid for the American government during World War II,
And these guys were collecting for the other side.
They were collecting for Mussolini, yeah. And they marched in his victory parades. Now, I have in the book a report in a British Zionist publication where they talked about how a Romanian magazine interviewed the financial director of the Zionist revisionist movement, and he said that he was pro-fascist and that he, the financial director of the movement, supported the victory of Mussolini in Ethiopia as a victory of the white race over the black. Now, when I was writing my book, I interviewed several old Zionist revisionists and ex-Zionist revisionists, and one of them said that not only was he pro-fascist in that period, the guy that I interviewed, but his estimate was that 70% of the Zionist revisionists in the 30s called themselves fascists publicly. And not only did they call themselves fascists, but Mussolini gave an interview to a Italian rabbi in which he called Jabotinsky your fascist Jabotinsky, okay? Von Mildenstein, the Nazi who went first to Palestine, he describes on the boat that, because he went from Italy, that's the way you used to do it in the good old days, you would go to Italy and then take a boat to Palestine. He described seeing some revisionists on the boat, and he described them as the Jewish fascists, okay? David Ben-Gurion, who at that time was the leader of the labor Zionist movement and later became the first prime minister of Israel, used to call Jabotinsky Vladimir Hitler. Okay, so now, you know, when Mussolini, and Einstein in 1948, when Menachem Begin came to the United States, had a letter in the New York Times, okay, him and about 35 other, you know, prominent Jews, saying Begin's movement is closely related to the Nazi and fascist movement. Now, what I tell people is, look, when Einstein and Einstein and Mussolini and the Nazis and the head of the Labor Party all say you're a fascist, there ain't no doubt about it.
Brass Check TV, free to you, not free to us. We've got a server bill, we've got an email software bill, we've got a tech helper bill, and that happens every month. So to everybody that is supporting us financially, that's paying for their subscription in one way or another, we really appreciate it. If you're not, consider doing so. Everybody's got money for the newspaper and the cable bill and all that. Do you have money for media that's actually serving you? That's really the issue here. And when you help us, it allows us to get this information out to the world. So thanks to all our supporters, and if you're not a supporter already, please consider becoming one.